a Roots Live webinar sponsored by the government-funded program Roots into Languages. My name is Erica Corradini, and I am the manager of two professional networks for translation and interpreting, which bring together experts nationally and internationally. And today I will moderate a hopefully very lively discussion about transferable skills and cultural competencies. We've got 4 panelists with us today to address your questions, and these are all based in the East region of the Roots Consortium. Their names are Wendy Woolery, and she's a career advisor, Madeleine Hutt, Alberto Hijazo-Gascon, and Claire Cuminatto. So I will now give them an opportunity to say something about themselves, and then we'll start taking questions and hopefully get the webinar on the way. If you want to put questions on Twitter, please do that with the hashtag RootsLive. So, Wendy, would you like to tell us something about yourself?
Hi there, everybody. My name's Wendy Woolery. I am a careers advisor here at the University of East Anglia. My role here involves working with a range of different students in the Arts and Humanities faculty, and one of my student cohorts are the language students. I have a lot of experience of working with students both from school, colleges and in universities. So I have a number of years of experience of talking to students about languages and about what they can do, the sort of careers that they can get into if they have languages. So looking forward to your questions today.
Thank you very much. Madeleine?
Hi, I'm Madeleine, and I'm a student of French translation. I'm in my postgraduate years, I'm doing my master's, and I'm here to answer any questions you have about being a student of languages, what you can do with languages after your degree, if you're in the initial stages thinking about applying, or if you're already on a course and you want to take a postgraduate course. If you have any questions, just feel free to ask.
Thank you very much. Alberto.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Alberto Hijazo-Gascon, and I'm a lecturer in intercultural communication with Spanish here at the University of East Anglia, and I'm also the head of Spanish in the school. I teach intercultural business communication. That's one of my modules, and I've got a project with Claire related to employability, and it is on cultural consultancy with some of my students and some local companies here in the region, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have in relation to intercultural communication or second language acquisition.
Brilliant, thank you very much. Claire, would you like to say something about yourself?
Sure. So, hello everyone. My name is Claire Cuminatto. I am a lecturer in French language here as well in the University of East Anglia. That's one part of my job. The second part is being employability director for the School of Politics, Philosophy, Language and Communication Studies. That's quite a long name, but I've been working with language students on employability for a number of years now. This is my 4th, so I've seen quite a lot of students coming to my office to talk about what they can do and what it is that sets them apart. I also do quite a lot of intercultural work in my French oral seminars. So I've got a project going on at the moment about intercultural aspects of English and French people. And as Alberto was saying, I also work a lot on including more employability-related activities in all modules within the school.
Thank you very much. So, if that's okay, I would like to start from you, Wendy, with the first questions for today's webinar. So, how can languages provide you with transferable skills? And how exactly are they transferable?
Thank you. Well, I think it's important that people understand, and students understand, the types of transferable skills that their language degrees will give them. Sometimes people tend to think that they don't have lots of transferable skills, and those are things around their languages. I mean, particularly those communication skills. These are things that employers across the board are looking for. So they want people who have good communication skills, both orally and in writing, and obviously language study can give you those skills. Other skills that employers are looking for are, for example, the ability to look at information, assess information and interpret it. Also, sort of leadership skills, again, bringing in those sort of communication skills, working in groups and working in teams. And these are some of the things, again, that when you're studying languages, you build up all of these skills and knowledge. Clearly, there are some very generic skills in terms of study, such as working to deadlines, giving your opinions, reading texts, and so on. But language skills particularly are very much transferable. Clearly, in the world that we live in, it's now there are now lots of global opportunities, and students who have those language skills, as well as those other employability skills, are really at an advantage. And there are many employers now who are looking for students who have those specific language studies and those specific language skills that they can bring and that they can use in the workforce. How are they transferable? Well, clearly, if you have knowledge of languages and the employer is thinking about opening up opportunities globally, then students with language skills are going to be really in the forefront of this. So it's about how you promote the skills that you've got and how you get those across to the employer and show that you've got something that is additional. I think it's also important that, for example, language students who go abroad and study abroad or work abroad as part of their studies are also at a real advantage. And I guess it's something that some of the others can talk about as well and give their experience on. But for example, that cultural awareness, the knowledge of other cultures, of living in different countries, is really important. So those are some of the things that are really transferable and will add value to your degree.
Yes, thank you very much indeed. Claire?
I just wanted to add something about the communication skills that Wendy mentioned, because communication is so big, it can encompass a lot of different aspects, and often people don't think about breaking it up into smaller skill sets. So just one aspect that I wanted to raise is that when you study a language, you're not only becoming an expert in this language, you're also getting better at your mother tongue, at your native language. And that's really something that can be useful when being asked to write in jobs, because employers are increasingly, well, are always in demand of people who can write well, who can write coherently, who can persuade people with their writing. And when you learn a language, you really go into the nuts and bolts of your own language as well. You get to understand it better. And I've seen quite a lot of our alumni going into copywriting or journalist careers, which is not necessarily something that you would think about aside from, you know, going to another country and being a journalist there. No, some of them are staying in the UK and being journalists here, and they do say that what they've done during their degree helped them immensely.
Yes, Madeleine.
Hi. Yeah, I think what Wendy and Claire have both said is entirely true and accurate. All those skills are so important. They're definitely all skills that I've learned over the last few years of studying languages. But I think there's one thing that I value really highly that I've learned through studying a language, and that's the ability to not be afraid of making mistakes, and to also understand that if you make a mistake in the language, or if you're abroad and you say something that's a little bit wrong, you have to problem solve on the spot. And I think a lot of employers value that ability to take a task, look at it and throw yourself into it, And if there's a problem, solve it quickly, find ways around it. I think when you learn languages and you move abroad and you're in a new environment, you're doing that constantly. You're constantly you're learning new things and adapting. And so I do think that the ability to be fearless is something that I've learned through languages.
On that note, Madeleine, we've got a question coming in from by Oliver Spencer. Why did you choose to learn languages?
Hi, Oliver. I debated for a very long time about what kind of thing I wanted to do at university. I knew I wanted to take something further, and I was thinking about art for a very long time. I wanted to go and do fine art for years. And at the back of my mind, I always liked French. I always liked it at school. And the more I thought about it, the more I thought, well, if I learn this language to a better level, I get to go to France. I get to meet new people. And maybe I can learn other languages. Maybe I get to travel more. And when I started looking at the course that I did at University of East Anglia, which was Translation, Media and French, I saw that by studying a language, I could then study so much more. I could tap into film and literature and global issues and intercultural communication. I could start to understand not just about French culture, but European culture and a wider range of subject areas. And I knew that language, that French language, would lead me into all those different areas. And yeah, it's been brilliant. I've learned things that I didn't expect to learn through a French degree. It's been brilliant.
Thank you very much. I would like to go back for a minute to something that Wendy said about being international, being interculturality, and perhaps I would like to ask Alberto a question. How can the year abroad make you more employable?
Well, I think the year abroad is a very valuable experience, and it's really an added value to your own degree and to your own employability and skills that you achieve. Some of our students are going to Japan or to Latin America or to France or to Spain, so they are working there, they are living, they are surrounded by the environment, and it helps them to develop these communication skills that we were talking before. So it's really important, because when you learn a language, you are not only learning like the linguistic bit, but you also learn all the cultural background which is attached to the culture, how to communicate correctly in that culture, how to behave appropriately in a business interaction, or how to appropriately ask for something, complain about something, request something, solve an issue. As Maddie was saying before, you have to be very quickly in solving problems. And as well, you become aware of your own cultural aspects. Normally, students have at first a bit of culture shock. Then they start with this honeymoon period that they love the country where they are, they really enjoy it, and they are experiencing that and they love it. Then there is a bit of a crisis, like, oh, what I'm doing here, I should go be in my country again. No, that's too much. And then they can adjust those levels. So that's something really interesting, and it's really interesting for us as lecturers to see how they develop and they change and they add all these things during their year abroad, how they go through all these phases, and how as well they are aware of the communicative situations in the other culture. But also they learn a lot, adding to what Claire was saying before. They also learn a lot about their own culture, so not only about their own language, but also about their own culture. And they say, oh, I was taking for granted that things were done in this way. So the openness that you get from the year abroad is really, really good.
Thank you very much. We've got tons of questions coming in. So I've got one for perhaps Wendy. Are there jobs in the army for linguists?
Yes, I mean, sometimes, obviously, the army will take people across a range of different subject areas. There will be some specific jobs whereby, if you have languages, those opportunities can arise. But one of the things that you have to remember is, of course, if you go into the army, often you kind of you don't go into a specific career. You might go in as an officer and you do the training, and then from there, you look at which options you might want to take. So having a language could certainly add value to what you have, and again, depending on those languages, there could be some specific options. So just, I guess, unfortunately, I guess if you think about the army, thinking about the types of conflict and the areas of conflict perhaps in the world, there could be certain languages that could be more useful perhaps than others.
Thank you very much. There was a question coming from Brad, who would like to go into the army as a mechanic. So, another question coming in from Troy. Is there any room for translators in the video game industry? Wendy, I think it's still you.
Okay, again, yes, there certainly are. And also, again, think about the countries who are perhaps big with video games and promoting those. I'm just thinking particularly about Japan, for example. Then, again, if you have those languages, those skills, that knowledge, there could be opportunities there for you. But I think it's also important just to remember about the sort of general skills that your degree will give you, because if you're specifically wanting to go into the video game industry, clearly those employers are going to be looking for those technical skills as well, and those creative skills.
Thank you very much. We've got another question from Carla. Perhaps, Claire, would you like to address this one? How often outside your job do you use your chosen language?
I personally use it.
Sorry, we cannot hear you. Can you put your mic on?
That's right. Is that better?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Could you perhaps clarify the question? How often do I use my my language? So obviously, as a lecturer of French, my mother tongue is French, but I use my English language every day at work, and obviously having a very good level of English is very important, because all the emails, all the communication that I have to do aside from when I'm in class with my students has to be done in English. So I'd say I couldn't work in this university, and I couldn't have a job at this level if my my control of English wasn't as good. And I think that's something that you can take to that you can mention in any context. If really you want to work in another country, you will have to acquire a fluency in the language of that country that is enough for you to function as a professional in that country. Fortunately, that's something that you can acquire very, very quickly and on the spot. You don't need to have necessarily, done a whole degree in the language to acquire this skill. Alberto was talking about the year abroad, and that's something that you get when abroad. When you're on the spot, you need to function, so you learn how to function, and that's something that's very interesting with our students who do an internship abroad. Sometimes I get feedback from them at the beginning saying, "Ooh, not sure what I'm really doing," and by the end of their internship, it's just a completely different story. They can function, and that's a huge thing, because many graduates can't. Well, many students, young people, have an adjustment time, an adjustment period when starting work. Full stop. But just think about it, doing it in another country is an extra challenge, and if you manage to do that, you can do anything.
Yeah, thank you very much. We'll come back to that later on. Now, I think I've got a question for Madeleine. What benefits does learning a language have?
Right. Okay. Very broad question. I could be going for hours on this. Well, for me, my own experience, learning a language has allowed me to understand another culture that otherwise would have not been something I could tap into. It's given me a better understanding of my own language, which I think Claire was mentioning earlier, like that you understand your own culture and your own language and your own history and who you are better by comparing that with another language. I've been able to go and make friends in French, and I've been able to work in France. When I finished my first degree, I took a position out in the north of France where I was teaching English in a university, and despite the job being in English, I was living in French, and I wouldn't have had that working opportunity, I wouldn't have had to have a taste of what it was like to teach English abroad had I not had that language behind me. And it was a really great opportunity, and it sort of spurred me on to want to perhaps move abroad again. And I think, like I said earlier, it's made me want to explore other languages and see where that could take me into other possible careers. So there's all sorts of benefits to it, but I think it generally just opens your mind to other possibilities. And it's fun. It's fun to be able to express yourself in a completely different tongue. I love it.
Thank you for that. I think we've got a question for perhaps the lecturers. Someone who is scared of learning German at university. Any tips? Alberto or Claire, who wants to go first?
Well, as you prefer. I think, well, don't be scared because it's not that bad. Normally, lecturers are not that terrible. We are normally friendly, and most of us have, I mean, regardless of being a native speaker or not a native speaker of the language you are studying, we have been through the same process as you. So we know how it is. We have learned the language. We know how hard it is sometimes and how rewarding it is and how exciting it is. So don't be scared because it is something that that is very exciting. That you will be able to communicate with people that you would not be able to without learning that language. You will be able to experience that culture from first hand, and you will love it. You won't regret it. So really make the effort and don't be shy to study German. I'm sure you like it.
Claire, did you want to add anything to that?
Just to say one thing that when I meet students for the first year students, generally there's a lot of misconceptions of the work we are going to ask them to do, because they think this is university. They think that suddenly we're expecting them to have a native level, and that's not the case at all. It is, we know where we take students from and we know where we want to take them to. So it really is a continuum from where you will have stopped at a college. So don't think that it will be suddenly, it will be a big change, obviously, because university is a different way of learning, but I mean, the language higher education community will take you where you are and will help you along the way.
Thank you very much. I've got another careers question for Wendy. I want to be a police officer. Any jobs with languages there?
Again, my question, if I was talking to you as a careers advisor, would be, tell me about why you want to become a police officer. What is it about that particular career, that route, that option that appeals to you? The languages perhaps may be secondary, but it has to be, that's the job that you want to do. So whether it's a police officer or the army or video games, that's got to be the key thing that really appeals to you. And then you may want to think about, are there opportunities, for example, depending on the type of community that you might work in or the location that you might work in as a police officer in the UK. So do some of those areas, are there places where they have people from other cultures who speak other languages? Could that then be useful to you as an additional thing that you can offer to that employer to say, look, actually, I have these additional languages, which I think would be really useful in the locality. So there aren't necessarily specific jobs. If you want to be a police officer, then that clearly is your job. And it isn't directly a language-based job. There are other jobs within the police service. So, for example, they might use translators, interpreters within the service, but they are not necessarily police officers.
Yes, I agree on that. Thank you very much. I've got a question directed to Claire by Suzanne. You say you include employability activities in your courses. Can you give an example?
Well, yes. So I can give, for example, well, I can talk about one project, and Alberto, if you want to talk about the project that you're doing in your module afterwards, that way we can cover two. So in some of our translation modules, we do translation work experience. So there's a whole module based on group work. So students produce translations for real clients, real customers. So we work with museums, heritage places, and students produce translations that are used by them afterwards. So it's really a great thing for students to do, because it is a work placement within the module, and this is part of a broader project called Professional Practice. Whereby we've got many such projects in many different modules, such as Alberto's.
Yeah, exactly. So thank you, Claire. One of the, in my case, the module is called Intercultural Business Communication. So obviously we thought that it would fit very well in this professional practice schema. And what we are doing, what my students are doing, they study the differences among cultures. So they study different issues between cultures, how to solve conflict among different cultures, and how to understand better different cultures. We apply them into business context, and what they are doing now is they are preparing consultancy activities for different local companies. I will give you an example of something that we did a couple of years ago. So there was this Chinese delegation coming to Norfolk to talk to a group of small business companies. So what my students did was going to the venue of the conference just before the Chinese delegation arrived, and they delivered a briefing, a short presentation about how to make the business and negotiations with Chinese people. In that case, they made aware of the small entrepreneurs in Norfolk who are not used, they were not used to deal with international clients, and in particular with Chinese people. So they were aware of the different ways of communication, how the different ways to refuse something or to reject an idea is not the same as the one they would do in English. I mean, even if they have an interpreter, or even if they speak English very well, these sort of norms are still present in there, and the different values and priorities of the different cultures. So, for example, that it is very important in the case of Asian cultures to establish a connection, to establish a good relationship with the client before ending in any agreement. So that was something very important, because normally in Western countries we tend to be like really fast and really quick and really oriented to having the deal ready as soon as possible, whereas in other cultures it is more a long-term relationship. So it was a great experience for the students, because they could be in a work environment, they could really see how these encounters worked, and the small companies valued it very well, because they were saying, well, that's really valuable, and we would not have this expertise, because yeah, they are of course focused on their own companies and how to run their own business. So that would be one example.
Thank you for these brilliant examples. Oliver asks, what more can you learn about in languages at university? How is it different from what you do at GCSE level? Perhaps, I don't know, Claire, and then perhaps Madeleine?
Okay, so I'd say that the major difference from school to university is, first of all, the fact that you have to be far more autonomous, and the fact that you have to learn to know yourself as a language learner, in order to be able to work more on what is important to you and what you think you need to work on. So that's something that is true for any degree, but particularly in languages. For instance, in the first year, I asked my students to keep a log or a French diary of all the work that they do during the week, in all the different skills and all the different types of activities that they do, and give themselves feedback and objectives for the week after. We do that only in the first year, of course, but just to give students a structure, because obviously you will have fewer contact hours at university, in UK universities, and there's a lot of autonomy involved. And I think that's also something that is absolutely great for employers, that self-management and motivation that you have from working on your own. In terms of what you will study, it will obviously get more varied as time goes. You will start with more generalist modules, probably, that will make sure that you have a sound basis in the grammar, in phonology, in phonetics, and then gradually you will get progressively more expert in one area or another. For example, here we've got modules on interpreting, we've got modules on regional variations of languages, we've got culture-bound, so culture-specific modules on pop culture in Japan, for instance. So it's gradually getting you more and more specialized in one area, and usually students enjoy very, very much the fact that they can pick and choose and they can really get to where they want to go, rather than being assigned, just like at GCSE, a set of topics that they have to do. There is a certain amount of choice.
Yes, Madeleine, would you like to add something?
I would definitely echo what Claire has said there about there being that choice that you can go and specialise in whatever area within that language and that culture that you're particularly interested in. My degree was quite broad in some senses, in that I could do literature, I could do a bit of film, I could sort of go into history, politics. I could choose from all these different areas, and in the first year I kind of tried a bit of everything. And I thought, okay, well, I'm studying French language, but I could apply it to this and that, and I think I did a theatre module, I did a drama module in my first year, and realised that was fun, but it wasn't what I wanted to focus on. And I've ended up really having a specialism in literature, and that's what I really love now, and film as well. I think, yeah, being able to have that choice to create, you to kind of carve your own path, is something that you get from university level language learning that you don't have at GCSE. And you also have a variety of different learning environments. So you have your contact hours, as Claire mentioned, that could be a larger lecture and then a smaller seminar and maybe an even smaller oral group. But then you also have the resources at university to go and use in your own time. We have a language lab here, and if you wanted to go and practice interpreting or looking into subtitling and dubbing and using all the resources there, you can go and do that in your own time. So the resources are here for you, and the different ways of learning are set up for you, and you just have to be autonomous, as Claire said, and choose the way that works best for you, choose the right methods for you.
Jude wants to know if you've got to go to a German-speaking country to work as a sports journalist in German. Wendy.
Okay. So if you want to be a sports journalist in specifically specialising in German, then I guess ideally it would be useful to go to a German-speaking country. I think, as we kind of alluded to earlier, there are of course opportunities to use those languages here. So it may be, for example, if you're really interested in sports journalism, and you like a particular area of sport, you could still do that here. So you might work for a newspaper or you know, a TV company or whoever in the UK, but actually you could then link to their German operations. But the likelihood is, I guess, if you really want to become a sports journalist and your language is German, then that will at least open up the opportunity for you to go and work and travel to German-speaking countries. And who wouldn't want to do that? It'd be a really great opportunity to actually go out to those countries as opposed to just staying in the UK and talking to people that way. So think about it more broadly. Yes, go out and grasp those opportunities.
Yes, that'd be great. I've got two questions which are which I would like to bring together from two different people. How much is the average uni, and is it worth the money to study languages at university? Perhaps Wendy, would you like to say something about this?
I can't really go into the sort of how much the cost side of it, because I don't really get involved in that bit. But I guess anybody who's looking at going to university can start looking on the UCAS website, etc., at some of that information about costs and find out from university websites again about what those fees are. Is it worth it? Absolutely. It's certainly, if you have a degree, it has shown, studies have shown that the level of earnings that you have during your lifetime are about probably 40% higher than somebody who doesn't have a degree. So, you know, those are the kind of general statistics on that. If you have a language degree, then clearly you can offer a much wider range of skills and a much wider range of opportunities can come to you. So if people are thinking, is it really worth me doing this? Should I go and take that step and go to university? Then I would say yes. If it's something that you want to do, you really want to build on your language skills and your language knowledge, then going to university is a really good way to do that. And also take all of those opportunities that are there. So Madeleine alluded to, you know, going into the language lab and doing all of those different things and building those things up, being an autonomous learner and getting out of it what you can. Go on the year abroad, do that, immerse yourself in the language, and that can really reap benefits and rewards. So is it worth it? I'd say yes.
Thank you. To go back to the sort of matter of fluency and how fluent one needs to be in a foreign language, Oliver wants to know how long does it take to be fluent in a foreign language? Perhaps Claire or Alberto or Madeleine, who wants to go first?
I can start answering that, although Alberto is a specialist in language acquisition. So, but I'd say first it really depends on the language. Obviously, if you're talking about a language with Indo-European roots, then you know it will be closer to your mother tongue. So you will get it faster. But if you're talking about Mandarin or any other languages, then that's going to take longer. With regards to what level of fluency you need to have, I think at the end of the day, even having it depends what you want to use it for. International clients will always appreciate to have someone who can babble a few words and who can make the effort to say a few things in their language. That is good business etiquette. That is just something that people like, and that you will start on a good foot with clients. In order to be able to function properly, I'd say that's when carrying on languages at university is useful, because it will give you it's not just a question of fluency, it's also a question of confidence, and the confidence is, I think, something that you acquire with time and with having to do various a variety of activities, such as, you know, doing presentations in the target language. That is something that's quite scary to students to start with, and then gradually they get used to it. So I'd say it really depends what you want to use it for. Yeah.
Alberto, would you like to add something to that?
Yeah, I would like to. Well, I totally agree with Claire. I mean, it's really important. What do you want to use the language for? Because maybe you want to use it for reading. Maybe you are more interested in watching films. So maybe it depends if on the degree of depth that you want to achieve in the language. If you want to really work in a language, so just to give you an idea, like our students starting with an A level, at the end of the second year of university, they more or less have achieved like the B2 level of the European framework, and that's like the level that normally is useful for working and to have the communication skills that are needed for an average work. Then if you want to be more specialized and really work deeper in using the language and really have a very good proficiency in the level at the end of the degree, normally you achieve like the C1 level, which is really high, and that's the one that is used, for example, if you want to be a translator, if you want to be an interpreter, and even for the jobs that you would do in business or that you would do in teaching or in all the different career paths. If you achieve this level, then you are really fluent, really proficient, and you will have a lot of good chances of getting a good career.
Thank you. Madeleine, perhaps this is for you. Have you got any tips for Brad, who doesn't know how to find pen pals?
Oh, okay. Doesn't know how to find pen pals. Okay, Brad. Do you know, it's funny how many people you meet by just going away to, say, going for a weekend abroad, and just being open to who you might meet, just having a chat with people that you meet in all sorts of areas in a city, say going to Paris for a weekend and chatting to people. I've had wonderful conversations with people at train stations, just meeting, you know, people out and about and practicing my language. That's one idea, but pen pals, it's a hard one to answer because a lot of the people I've met who I converse in French with, I met on my year abroad, and we stay in touch by Skype and by messaging, and so I get the opportunity to practice my French with them a lot. But there are forums out there, and there are people, you know, that there are various. I'm a member of a couple of Facebook groups of translators, for example, and as that's the profession I want to go into, it's really important for me to be part of that community. So I've tapped into the social media that's there for translators, and people are talking to each other constantly about the profession and about their language pairs. And that's a really good opportunity to meet people with similar interests to you, similar languages to you, to start talking, even if it's a friendly chat or you want to ask a specific question about jobs. Think about the kind of thing you're interested in, and kind of go and explore social media, see what's out there in the language that you're interested in, and you might find, I mean, we're very lucky these days that with technology the way it is, we can speak to people on the other side of the world in a heartbeat. So just see what's out there. Think about what you love. I mean, I love translation, so I went and found that online, and I found people that loved it as well. So just think about what you're passionate about, what you might want to go and talk to people about online.
That's right, thank you. What types of office jobs require languages, Wendy? From Ethan.
Okay, thanks for that question, Ethan. Again, it's a difficult one to answer in terms of I could give you a whole list of different jobs that could involve languages. So again, the question is about what are the sorts of things that appeal to you? When you say office jobs, you know, where do you want to work? What type of office job? What sorts of things appeal to you? Is it, you know, computing? Is, you know, admin? What are the sorts of things that you like to do? So it's a difficult question to say, these are lots of office jobs. It's about how do you want to use your languages every day? Are you somebody, do you want to work for a company in the UK, and maybe they might link with other companies and they have offices abroad, so you want to be dealing with some of their customers and their clients and using your languages that way? Actually, do you want to be the person who is abroad and doing those business deals and dealing with the company? So it's a difficult question to answer in terms of what are the office jobs. It's more about what appeals to you, what things you like, what do you enjoy, and then thinking about what matches up with those things that I like and I enjoy. So what I would say to you, Ethan, is have a chat with a careers advisor about some of those things that you like, and then start to put together, find out more about those careers, and then think about the language aspects of those.
I've got a bit of a long question here, but I think it's quite interesting. Do you think there is enough focus on interview skills and employability skills in foreign languages courses in the UK? Or is there too much focus on history and literature? Claire, perhaps, and then Alberto again, the lecturers.
It's a very interesting question, actually. I think it is getting there gradually, but universities are adapting to what's going on in the world. So, you know, if in our own university, if you had been looking into our course profiles like 10, 15 years ago, maybe more, 15 years ago, it was completely different. And then the university gradually adapted to make the degrees really adapted to what's out there, so that we don't have graduates who you know, graduates without a clue. So but I would say don't also disregard history or, you know, all the other aspects of a language degree that you think, oh my God, that's less practical. Why am I doing this? Why am I not concentrating all my efforts into, you know, something very, very down to earth? And well, it's the same question if you're thinking about any degree in the humanities. Why do you do a degree in the humanities? Then it's to broaden your mind and to think about things in different ways and have more critical thinking when looking into sources, which is something, again, that you don't necessarily think is transferable, but it is transferable because you will have to analyze data, feedback, anything constantly when you're in the world of work. That's part of of a lot of jobs. So I would say don't disregard the more traditional degrees either, because they bring you different things than more practical based courses. But as a general rule, I would say definitely there is more of a focus on employability year after year, and more universities have that that tendency. I don't know if Alberto will agree with me.
Yeah, I do agree with you. And well, one of the things that are relevant as well, if you think that in our classes and in our seminars and our assessment as well, our students have to test their oral skills as well. So they do a lot of presentations, they do a lot of group discussions, and that's something that is really useful for a job interview, because they are used to do it all the time. So probably in comparison with a degree without this language component, they are much more used to discuss things, to talk in public, to have an audience to talk to. So I think that's really relevant. And then apart from that, there are different skills that at university nowadays, some professional skills that are developed through languages and through learning a language, like, for example, translation, interpreting. That's some of the things that we were mentioning before, but in different projects. For example, we have here some of the students of French do a theater play, so they get into acting and drama. In Spanish, we've got a magazine, so they acquire some journalistic skills as well. In Japanese, they have a public debate competition. So in a way, there are other professional skills that are very relevant, that are developed through the modules and through the different projects that we are building. And I totally agree with Claire as well. Don't think that literature and history are not relevant, because although they are not the focus as they used to be in learning languages, it is also important to broaden your mind, and to have a good understanding of current affairs, for example, why France or Spain is like it is now, or different issues that are relevant for that. So yeah, I hope this answers the question.
Yes, I think it does, and I totally agree with both of you that a lot about employability has been done in humanities faculties all over the country, and I'm sure with careers services as well, as Wendy would probably agree. So I think that there has been like an awful lot of improvement in sort of traditional degrees, but also in more innovative and sort of different degrees. So I do certainly agree with that. Madeleine, there is a question to which I think you might like to answer. How long is a language course at university? By Kieran.
Okay, hi Kieran. This entirely depends on whether you want to do a full year abroad or not. So the option for me when I was choosing my degree was a 3-year course where you would spend, I do believe it was the second term of the second year, maybe Claire or Alberto can tell me if that's right or wrong. One of the terms in the middle of the year you would spend, in the middle of the course, sorry, you would spend abroad. And that gives you 3 months in whichever country you wish to go to. But with the 4-year course, you have a full academic year, which is your 3rd year in that country. And what you get from this is either the opportunity to go and study in a university abroad, or you could work as a teacher of English with the British Council, which is brilliant because not only are you working in both languages constantly, you also get paid, or you can go and find your own work. If there is, you have connections abroad, or if you have a particular interest in a working sector in that country that you want to go and find work experience in, you could do that for a term or a year. So the length of your course will entirely depend on how much time you want to spend abroad and spend studying, really. I mean, for me, it made total sense to spend that year abroad, and I am all the better for it in terms of my language ability in French, my understanding of the culture. I've also, on a personal level, I've made loads of friends, and I'm a much more confident person in general in English. I think Alberto touched on this earlier, with presentation skills that you learn through university classes, and having to constantly perform basically and explain your ideas and discuss ideas. You're doing that in your second language, and you become so much better at doing it in your first language. I became so much more confident with interviews, with just talking to people day to day. I'm a much more confident person in general in both languages, just from having that experience abroad. So I would say, if you're considering how long you want to study for, definitely think about doing that full year, because you really get a chance to explore that culture, whichever one that may be, fully. And yeah, it really helped me, so I'm sure it would help you.
Thank you very much. I would like to go back. We've got like 5 minutes left of our time, but I would like to go back to the promotion of skills, which was mentioned at the beginning of the webinar, and talk perhaps with Alberto a little bit about intercultural competencies. What exactly are intercultural competencies, and why do they matter?
Well, when we talk about intercultural competencies, broadly speaking, like the awareness and the ability to deal with people from other cultures and without having misunderstandings, there are different sub-competencies or different areas of this that you achieve when you learn a language. So part of that is the attitude, so how to be open to other cultures and how to have this curiosity of learning more about this culture. There is also the knowledge of the different social groups and the different people from this culture. And there are also some skills of interpreting and relating different cultures. So when you learn a language, you are also a mediator. So you are also able to interpret what's going on if you are in a given situation, and you can relate that, and you can translate that, or you can mediate with people from your own culture and explain what's happening. And there's also these different skills of discovering, of interaction, of knowing the cultural practices, of knowing how you have to say sorry, or how you can see, for example, in my case, as a native speaker of Spanish, we are normally considered to be very rude by British people because we are very direct and because we interrupt each other all the time. But you know, it's not that we are rude, or at least we are not rude in our culture. If we are rude in English, we don't mean it. It is because our norm, our cultural norm, is to interrupt, to take the turn. So you have to use that, or you have to be more direct, because that's our own cultural norm. So having all this in your mind and having developed this critical cultural awareness helps you to become an effective intercultural communicator, and that's something really relevant and really valuable for you, and you do it through learning languages mostly.
Yes, one final question. I do not see myself using a language in the future in the workplace. Why should I bother now? Wendy, perhaps?
Okay, yeah, I'll start off with this one. Again, it's about what is useful to you and what's interesting to you. So if you want to study a language because you are interested in it, it's a subject you enjoy, it's a passion, you want to develop those skills, that's absolutely fine. And we see lots of students who study languages who don't necessarily use those languages directly within a career once they're in their first career. But what you can then do, and I often see this with students, is that they may then use those languages later on in a career. So of course you may think it might not be something I want to use yet, but in the future it will just give you those additional skills and those options if opportunities come up, that you can then use those skills in the future in another career. Remember, right at the beginning we talked about skills. It's about those communication skills, those other skills that you develop as a language learner. And those are skills that are transferable into lots of different careers. So I think the message hopefully that you would take away from this webinar is, yes, if you want to go into careers that use languages, that's great. Even if you don't want to go into careers using languages, remember, having a language degree, having those language skills can keep options open in a wide range of careers, and employers really value those skills.
Thank you very much. That's a wonderful note to finish on. And I would like to thank our audience today, and thank you all for the many questions you've sent in. I know that we haven't covered them all, and this is just because we are actually running out of time. And well, I hope it was useful for you. Stay tuned, because there will be another webinar coming up in a couple of months or so. So keep logging into the Roots Live website to learn about the details. And please join me in thanking our wonderful panelists today. So thank you very much all for being with us and for answering all the questions. Thank you again, and see you next time. Bye-bye, everybody.